Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're talking about ignoring people. Why ignoring people makes you attractive. The psychology of silence. Have you ever noticed something strange? The moment you stop chasing someone, they suddenly become interested. The moment you stop texting first, your phone starts buzzing. The moment you stop trying to impress everyone, people begin paying attention. Why does that happen? Is it manipulation? Is it luck? Or is there something much deeper happening inside the human mind? Today, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood ideas about attraction. Not dating, not flirting, not playing hard to get. We're talking about something much more powerful. We're talking about why ignoring people, or more accurately, refusing to chase them, can make you incredibly attractive. But before we continue, let's clear something up. Ignoring people does not mean becoming rude. It does not mean pretending someone doesn't exist. It does not mean treating people badly just to make them like you. That's insecurity disguised as confidence. Real attraction does not come from games. It does not come from value. It comes from value. It comes from emotional control. And it comes from knowing what your life is too meaningful to revolve around someone else's attention. So today, we're going to uncover the psychology behind all this. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why people who seem the least desperate often become the most unforgettable. Well, let's begin. Imagine walking into a room where two people are trying to sell the exact same product. The first person follows everyone around, saying, "Please buy from me. I promise it's good. What can I do to convince you?" Well, the second person simply stands confidently. They smile, they answer questions, they know the value of what they are offering. They do not beg, they do not chase. Which person seems more valuable? Most people immediately choose the second person. Why? Because confidence communicates value before words ever do. Human beings naturally associate scarcity with importance. We assume that things which are difficult to obtain must be valuable. Luxury watches, exclusive restaurants, private clubs, rare diamonds. The less available something is, the more desirable it becomes. Interesting. Our brain often applies the same exact principle to people. When someone is constantly available, always replying instantly, always canceling plans for us, always seeking approval, always trying to be noticed, our subconscious begins to think, if they are interesting this much effort into me, if they are investing this much effort into me, maybe they don't have many other options. But when someone has their own life, their own goals, their own passion, their own priorities, their attention becomes valuable. Not because they are ignoring people, because they are busy building a life worth living. And that's incredibly attractive. Think back to your school days. There was probably one student everyone wanted to be friends with, not because they were trying to become popular. In fact, they usually weren't trying at all. They were not interrupting conversations. They were not begging people to notice them. They simply existed with confidence. People naturally gravitated towards them. Why? because confidence attracts curiosity. Neediness repels it. One says, I hope you choose me. The other silently communicates, I know my worth, whether you choose me or not. And those two energies feel completely different. Here's something fascinating about the human brain. Psychologists have discovered something called the scarcity principle. Simply put, people assign more value to things they believe are limited. If a store says unlimited stock, you think, I can always come back. But if the sign says only 3 left, suddenly you feel agency. Nothing about the product changed, only its availability. Now, before anyone misunderstands this, I'm not saying you should intentionally disappear just to manipulate people. That isn't confidence, that's emotional gambling. What I'm saying is this: when your life becomes genuinely full, you naturally becomes less available. Not because you're pretending, because you're busy. Busy learning, busy exercising, busy creating, busy building, busy becoming someone you're proud of. And ironically, that's when people start noticing you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing attraction comes from effort alone. If I text more, they appreciate me. If I keep explaining, they'll understand. If I keep giving, they'll eventually love me. Sometimes the opposite happens because excessive attention removes mystery. And mystery has always been one of the most powerful ingredients of attraction. Think about your favorite movie. Imagine someone tells you the entire ending before you watch it. Does the excitement remain? Probably not. Mystery keeps people emotionally invested, not because mystery is manipulation, because curiosity is one of the strongest human emotions. We naturally want to understand what we don't completely know. There's another reason ignoring people, or rather not chasing them, creating attraction. It demonstrates emotional stability. Imagine two people after disagreement. The first sends 20 messages, calls repeatedly, gets angry, demands explanations. The second sends one peaceful message, then returns to their life. Who appears emotionally stronger? The answer is obvious. Because emotional control signals maturity. People trust calmness. They admire composure. They respect individuals who don't lose themselves every time someone pulls away. Let's be honest. Most people aren't rejected because they are not attractive. They are rejected because they abandon themselves trying to earn someone else's approval. Think about that. How many dreams have people delayed trying to impress someone? How many hobbies have you abandoned trying to fit in? How many opinions have they hidden trying to be liked? Real confidence begins the moment you stop asking, what do they think about me? And start asking, what do I think about myself? That single shift changes everything. Here's a story. There were two young entrepreneurs starting businesses in the same city. The first spent every day convincing people he was successful. Luxury clothes, expensive dinners, constant social media posts, motivational quotes. The second spent every day actually becoming successful, learning, failing, improving, building. Years later, guess who attracted more opportunities? Not the loudest person, the most valuable one. People are naturally drawn towards substance, not performance. The same principle applies to attraction. Instead of trying to appear interesting, become interesting. Instead of chasing attention, Build a life worthy of attention, because attraction isn't something you manufacture. It's something that naturally follows purpose. Here's something that may surprise you. Many people confuse availability with kindness. They're afraid that setting boundaries will make them seem cold. But boundaries don't push healthy people away, they attract them. Healthy people respect people who respect themselves. If someone becomes angry simply because you couldn't answer immediately, that isn't love. That's entitlement. Real relationships leave room for individuality. They don't demand constant proof of affection. So, the next time you feel tempted to chase someone, please pause. Ask yourself, am I pursuing this person because I genuinely enjoy them, or because I'm afraid of losing their attention? Those are two completely different motivations. One comes from abundance, the other comes from fear. And people can feel the difference. So, in the next chapter, we are going to dive deeper into why people often return only after you've moved on, how emotional independence changes the way others sees you, why desperate energy is detectable without saying a word, and the powerful habits that naturally make people respect and even pursue you. Because the truth is, the goal isn't to ignore people, the goal is to build such a meaningful life that you're no longer dependent on anyone else's attention to feel complete. And that's where the true attraction begins. So, part 2, why we ignoring people makes you attractive. So, before I continue on part 2, I want you to remember one thing from the first part of this conversation. The goal isn't to make people miss you. The goal is to stop needing them to choose you. Because the moment your happiness depends on someone else's attention, you've already handed them your power. Think about that for a second. How many people wake up every morning and immediately check their phone? Not because they're expecting important news, but because they are hoping one specific person texted them. One notification determines their mood. One reply determines whether they smile or overthink. One seen message can ruin an entire day. That is an attraction. That's emotional dependence. And emotional dependence quietly destroys attraction before you even realize it. Imagine carrying a bucket with a tiny hole in the bottom. Every compliment someone gives you fills it in. Every text message fills it in. Every like or social media fills it in. But every bit of attention fills it in. But because the bucket has a hole, it never stays full. You constantly need more validation, more compliments, more reassurance, more proof that people still care. The problem isn't the people, the problem is the hole. The hole is insecurity, and until you repair it, no amount of attention will ever be enough. People who are emotionally secure don't constantly ask, do you still like me? They ask, am I living in alignment with the person I want to become? There's a huge difference. One seeks approval, the other seeks growth. Here's something fascinating. Have you ever noticed that people often become interested in you only after you've genuinely moved on? It's almost ironic. When you were trying your hardest, nothing happened. You double texted, you made yourself available, you rearranged your schedule, you over explained, you waited by your phone, silence, then months later, after you've accepted the situation, focused on yourself, started exercising, learning new skills, made new friends, suddenly they come back. Why? Did they suddenly become a different person? Usually not. What changed was you. You stopped radiating need and started radiating peace. People are drawn to peace because it's rare. In a world where everyone is desperate to be noticed, the person who is quietly content becomes unforgettable. There's an old saying, the strongest person in the room is usually the calmest. Think about the leaders you admire. Whether they are athletes, business owners, teachers, or parents, very few earn respect by constantly demanding attention. Instead, they speak with intention. They move with confidence. They don't rush to prove themselves. Their presence speaks before they do. Now, compare that with someone who constantly interrupts conversations, needs to be the loudest, always has to win every argument, always needs the final word. Deep down, that behavior often comes from insecurity. Confident people don't need to convince everyone they are confident. It's obvious. They talk about one of the biggest attraction killers, over explaining. Imagine someone cancels plans with you. Immediately you send, I understand. I wasn't that excited anyway. I was actually busy too. I only asked because. Notice what happened. You started defending yourself without being accused. People do this because they are afraid of being misunderstood. But confidence doesn't panic. Confidence allows silence to exist. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Not because you're punishing someone, because not every situation deserves your emotional energy. That's maturity. Now, let's discuss something called emotional scarcity. Imagine two people. Person number one is available every single second, morning, afternoon, evening, late at night. Every text gets an instant reply. Every invitation is accepted. Every request becomes a priority. At first, that seems caring, but eventually, people begin expecting it. Now, compare that with someone who values their time. They still care, they still reply, they still show kindness, but they also protect their peace. They read books, they work on their goals, they spend time with family, they exercise. Sometimes they simply enjoy being alone. Their attention becomes meaningful because it's intentional, and intentional attention feels valuable. One of the greatest misconceptions in modern relationships is this: if I give more, they love me more. Unfortunately, that's not how human psychology works. Love grows through mutual investment, not one-sided sacrifice. Well, imagine watering someone else's garden every single day while your own plants slowly die. Eventually, you'll have nothing left to give. Yet, many people live exactly like that. They pour energy into people who barely acknowledge them while neglecting their own dreams, their own health, their own future. No wonder they feel empty. Real attraction begins when you start watering your own garden first, because healthy people don't look for someone to complete them. They look for someone to complement them. Let's be honest. Many people aren't afraid of being alone, they're afraid of being forgotten. That's the difference. Being alone simply means you are by yourself. Feeling forgotten attacks your identity. It whispers you don't matter. That's why people tolerate disrespect. That's why they keep texting people who stopped responding weeks ago. That's why they remain in one sided friendships, because loneliness feels less painful than rejection. But here's the truth: rejection, rejecting yourself hurts far more than someone else rejecting you. Every time you abandon your standards, you teach yourself that your needs don't matter. Every time you ignore your intuition, you weaken your self respect. Eventually, you become invisible, not to others, but to yourself. And that's the most dangerous kind of invisibility. Have you ever wondered why celebrities often attract enormous attention without personally chasing anyone? It's not simply fame, it's perceived purpose. People assume they're busy creating, working, traveling, building. Whether that's always true or not, the perception matters. Purpose is magnetic. Think about the people in your own life who inspires you more. Someone endlessly scrolling social media waiting for notifications, or someone passionately building a business, writing a book, learning a language, training for marathon, helping their community. Purpose naturally creates attraction because purpose creates direction, and direction is attractive. Here's another powerful lesson: attention isn't the same as respect. Someone can text you every day and still disrespect you. Someone can compliment you constantly, and still manipulate you. Someone can shower you with affection yet never genuinely value you. Real respect looks different. It respects your boundaries, it values your time, it celebrates your growth, it doesn't disappear whenever life becomes inconvenient. Don't confuse frequent communication with genuine connection. They're not the same at all. Now, imagine your life 1 year from now. You wake up early, you take care of your health, you're financially improving, you're emotionally stronger, you have hobbies, you laugh more, you sleep peacefully, you no longer panic when someone leaves. Wouldn't that version of you naturally becomes more attractive? Not because you're trying, because confidence is difficult to fake. When your life genuinely improves, people does notice. Sometimes without you saying even a single word. Here's a challenge. For the next 7 days, instead of asking who hasn't texted me, ask, what have I done today to make me proud of myself? Notice the difference. One question depends on someone else, the other builds your identity. Imagine asking yourself that every morning or every evening. Did I learn something today? Did I improve my health? Did I keep my promises? Did I move closer to my dreams? Slowly, your confidence stops depending on applause and begins depending on action. That's real self-esteem. So in part 3, we are going to uncover one of the biggest myths about attraction: why pretending to ignore people eventually pushes them away. We'll explore the difference between healthy detachment and emotional manipulation. Why some people become obsessed with unavailable partners. How high value individuals protect their peace without becoming cold. and the daily habits that quietly make someone impossible to ignore. Because true attraction isn't about making people chase you, it's about becoming someone who no longer has to chase anyone. Thanks for watching. We will meet at part 3.